Welcome everyone. We are here at the Hilton Anatole in Dallas, Texas, attending the Dealmaker Live event 2023. I am joined here with the GP team of Del Sol on Royal Lane. This deal was acquired in 2018 and sold in 2020. And we would love to hear just a brief bio from you all for your multifamily background.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm Ed Sittler. Perry and I partnered up maybe six or 7 years ago now. I moved out to Dallas about 5 years ago to go into multifamily. We joined a mentorship program that's based out here. It took us about a year to get our first deal, which was Del Sol, the one we're talking about. Since then, we've done about 7 deals total, about 1,400 or so units, and just been really focused on the DFW market.
Hi, my name is Perry Zhang. I am the founder and CEO of Cashflow Portal, which is a venture-backed technology startup helping operators and syndicators manage their investors. I met Ed 7 years ago in San Francisco through BiggerPockets. We did our first deal after joining a mentorship group in 2018. It took us about 9 months. We are excited to talk about our first deal.
Hi, my name is Brandon Martinez, founder and CEO of CapEx Partners, soon to also be Due Diligence Partners, and I also invest passively. I've done 8 deals, and I'm also a GP on 4 deals totaling 820 units.
Awesome. Okay, guys, let's talk key numbers. Tell us about purchase price. How much money did you have to raise? What was the CapEx budget looking like?
I can take that one. I can do the simple numbers and Ed can do the complex numbers. We purchased for $13.525 million. We raised about $4.3 million. Over 70 investors are on the deal, and the capital expenditure budget was about $1.4 million. And I think we sold it for so this is 13.525 and plus the 1.5, so that's 15 million-ish, and we sold it for about 21.
And this was y'all's second deal, right?
This is our second, first indication.
As a team, yeah.
Second deal, because we also did a 7-unit before that in Tacoma, Washington.
And a couple like single families.
That's right, yeah.
All the experience you needed.
Yeah.
Right. So going from 7 to 172.
Yes.
Not the easiest deal either, yeah.
So what was the projected cash on cash and overall returns for investors and versus the risk of the actual returns?
This is actually the funny part. So the projected was 75% total return over 5 years and 11% cash and cash. Now we dramatically underperformed on the cash and cash. I think we gave like 7% cash and cash, and we were barely giving 7%. But the actual total return was 94% over the course of 2 years instead of 75% over the course of 5 years. Or 3 years. So 94% over the course of 3 years instead of 75% over the course of 5 years.
So lower cash on cash distributions, but a higher upside when we sold the property.
And I think here's a very interesting fact, which is I don't think any of the investors ever told us that, hey, you're not living up to your cash and cash expectations. We didn't know that we had such high expectations back then. So, but I think with good investor communication, they know that this is like projections, and our investors care more about kind of the total return at the end.
Well, and in these days, that 7% would have been amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, and like part of the reason it was lower is because, we had more CapEx than we had originally anticipated.
Yes, so
and obviously a lot of the cash flow went into...
Right, the top 3 were the foundations, plumbing in every unit, like almost every unit. We had to have almost an in-house plumber, and thank God we had that. And then the third one was the units themselves were like way more damaged than we thought.
What was the biggest CapEx project you guys did? Can you walk us through that?
Well, there's the roof too.
The roof.
The roof.
So we did an insurance claim, and what was interesting about that is the claim was done by the previous ownership. So that was challenging and kind of scary too, because you're relying on the sellers to be good people or good Samaritans or whatever you want to call it. And so we had to work with the seller's representative, the insurance adjuster. We had a public adjuster. It was a fight to the finish, and they didn't even pay for the entire roof. They think they paid for 75% of it, but the good thing is that at the end of it all, the money we got from the insurance, even though it didn't cover the whole roof, because insurance always kind of overpays a little bit. They pay like market pricing. It covered our expense of the roof, so we got a free roof on the deal. Yeah.
And a lot of hard work.
And that was fun for me because we usually don't see the white or light gray shingles, which are energy efficient, but it matched the design and the color scheme of the property. So it's like a highly reflective roof. It really brought the property out. So.
Nice. So was that the most difficult project or just the biggest one? We want to hear the horror stories if there are any.
Foundation was the most difficult.
Yes. There were so many change orders on the foundations. So just to give you guys an idea of what the foundations were like, when you get in there, you could tell when you're walking around the subfloors, but now we have to open up the subfloors. We knew this was gonna have to happen during due diligence, so we budgeted for it, but obviously not enough. But it was when the foundation's pier and beam collapsed, it broke the sewer lines. So you can imagine the smells, and you got to give a lot of credit to the guys working in there, clearing that out, building new beams, and just having to smell that all day. Yeah. So what was the original budget on that, and then what did we end up spending? Do you know?
On the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the original budget was $140,000, and let's see, where did we end up at? $283,000.
Wow.
Wow.
In today's standard,
Including like the subfloors and all that stuff.
In today's market, it's probably 400, 500K.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's before COVID and all of the labor and material prices went up.
Did you have any major surprises with this deal overall?
That was one, right. Foundations, Brandon mentioned just the units in general being in like worse condition.
So we knew the units were classic.
I mean, we did our inspections obviously, but before you know, at the time we made the offer, we had maybe only seen like a small sample size. So once we were under contract, then we did like the full walk, unit walks, and that's when we started seeing like the extent of.
Yeah, so I remember we would get a quote from somebody, and then we were going unit by unit, and then they would get in there, and they had ceilings falling down. Oh. So, good thing Perry wasn't there for that. But and so how do you accurately budget for ceilings falling down? I mean, so every single unit was we found out after how much it's going to cost.
Or even like when we were doing the foundation work, the ceiling heights got lower.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
They had to do like the floor leveling.
Yes. So shifted down.
So those buildings, the ceiling heights are like an inch lower than they're supposed to be, just because like.
Yeah, because you had to have code.
And
Did you put it back up, or it stays
No, it'll just be forever.
Wow.
It'll just be a shorter.
Another surprise. I don't remember if you were there that day. We were walking around either with a vendor or somebody. I'm trying to remember who was there with me, but a guy just got out of jail. This is a rough area of Dallas, and a guy just got out of jail.
Threatening to smash people.
Yeah, he had found a pipe. And so somebody comes around the corner and they just like, he's coming. I'm like, who's coming? And like, I was so nervous. So I mean, I hear him. You keep hearing him, and then you finally see him, and then he has this huge pipe. He's not wearing many clothes, but we're just trying to find places to hide. But you want to know where he is, so you kind of want to.
We're kind of sort of following him around like at a distance.
Yeah, and we called the local,
destroy anyone's car.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, we called the police department. Took them a little bit to get there, but what the craziest thing is we're sitting there hiding behind some bushes, and next thing I know, I see the property manager and the assistant like fly past me, walking towards this guy, and I'm like, no, please. And they go right up to him, 2 feet away. Keep in mind he has a weapon, and they're like, "Sir, are you okay? Has anybody hurt you?" And he like drops the pipe and he's like, "Yes, people have been mean to me."
Oh
and
my
like
God.
they totally
He just needed a friend.
Yeah, he just needed a friend.
A property manager.
She was amazing. Yes,
Oh,
but
wow.
the Brit.
To Vicky, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have kind of no fear to
It's
be a
one of
manager
a
of those
kind.
kind of
It's one of a
properties.
kind.
One of a kind for sure.
Well, it sounds like you guys had a lot of bad surprises. Any good ones?
I don't know if it was a surprise. Like when we bought the property, obviously we're talking about like the bad parts of the area, right? Having like, drug issues and prostitution issues. And we had to deal with that stuff too. But the upsides of the area were you know, also things we looked at going into the deal, which was, you know, very strong,
Yep.
like demographics, very
Yep.
high occupancy. So it was a mixed bag. You know, there were obviously like the tough parts, but the overarching like demographic factors were very favorable.
Yep.
So I think we were able to, you know, grow our rents more than we initially thought we could, which obviously was, you know, boosted our overall NOI, ultimately boosted what we could sell the property for.
Good surprise is delinquencies is very low. It's really one of a kind delinquency. They're responsible tenants. They always pay on time, and this is one of the things we looked at when we went to the property. So yeah, they're very responsible tenants. A lot of families, and so we like that a lot. Yeah. And also, it's just in a high traffic location, high visibility, high road traffic, high traffic visibility. So I think those are the things we learn into the next deal. Is when we look at other deals, that's an important factor because that's kind of the art of underwriting. You wouldn't know that until you do a few of those deals.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, even just the last deal we bought last year, it's in that same area because,
Yep.
you know, even though we had all these issues, ultimately we knew it was such a strong area overall from that first deal.
Yep.
Yeah, so North Haven we bought, you know, like half a mile away from
Right.
there. It's, you know, it's all, you know, been up to expectations
Yep.
in terms of being super
Absolutely.
strong, you know, location, performance. So yeah, knowing like the sub-market, right? That's like, it's important. Yeah.
Are there any projects that you ended up spending way less than for what you budgeted for?
Let me look at my spreadsheet. See if I can find one.
It was usually seems like we spent more than we.
I mean,
Way
there were
more.
some we just didn't do.
Yeah. So the
Because we
one
had to reallocate money.
Yep.
Soccer field.
soccer field. That's the one I couldn't wait to do.
that
we
was
have always wanted to do that.
Biggest regret
Passion
was that
pre-
we couldn't do
passion
the soccer
project.
field.
Yeah, so it was like the interiors were just costing us too much. The foundations had already cost us too much. Yeah, we weren't able to do the soccer field, but it's like a perfect space for it. I wonder if the next guy did it.
I hope they do it.
Yeah.
Any other regrets beside the soccer field? Something you would have done differently before acquiring property?
You know, yeah, I can talk about maybe the regret. It was a potential regret, but we were so glad we did not regret it. So the price at the time was like 13 million, and last minute the seller wanted $500,000 more. $500,000 on like 13 million is a lot of increase, and so they say 13.5, you have it. And I think that was like 2 days before we need to submit the final LOI. And I thought to myself, man, we are really overpaying for this by offering 500K more. Now, if we don't offer 500K more, we wouldn't have it. Now, hindsight is 2020. That was a great deal. But at the time, we're like, oh man, we overpaid for this.
So if you would have stood your ground, you think you would have lost the deal?
I think we would have lost the deal.
Yeah, because there was another offer at 13.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's yeah. So I think I will say, pay attention to kind of the overall like economy and not so much on that particular deal because the tailwind has been very strong the 2 years when we hold the deal. So yeah, the Dallas also was booming at the time, so still booming. So
I mean, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's a lot less of a problem to overpay when the market's on its way up
Yeah.
than to overpay when you're already at.
yeah.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to overpay right now. So have y'all seen the property since we sold it?
Yeah.
It has a different name now. Yeah, I've been by. Yeah, it's so interesting to me, and this is just my guess, but like, I feel like some of the stuff they did wasn't really necessary, and it's almost like when a group takes over, kind of like Tides. You've seen the Tides properties? They're gonna do their thing no matter what. It could be brand new paint and a brand new roof and brand new everything, but they're still going to spend the money making it their brand. And I don't know if that's good or bad for the investors, but like it just seems sometimes unnecessary. But then again, it's like maybe that's why they're in it, right? To make it their thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of those bigger groups and the buyers were, very large kind of private equity groups. So I think they're, they just, even on if that specific property, maybe doing the full paint is not the best use of money.
Yeah.
Probably across their portfolio, it becomes beneficial because they're just literally doing the same thing to every property.
Yeah.
Right. Like Tides and like those big groups where
Yeah,
ultimately it saves the money, right? To just literally do the same thing at every property.
Well, I was just laughing because I was like, what if a roofer bought the deal, and he's like, definitely needs a new roof, but the roof's like a year old. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So anyway.
I will say that the most interesting thing to me about looking at it now versus like when we owned it is just what they've done on the rents, and that's
Have they increased
actually
it?
yeah. And so I think
Wow.
that shows. I mean, the rents. They raised the rents like way beyond
that's
what we
good.
were doing.
So you think we could have?
Right.
for them.
So that's
Good for them.
It kind of goes to like
Yeah.
a new owner brings their own kind of like vision to it. And I feel like when you've owned a property for a few years, it's
I like
easy
that.
to be complacent. Right?
like
Like,
that.
oh, it's performing well.
Yeah, I
you
like
know.
Well, do you know if they changed what our
I mean,
upgrade
they're doing a
package
higher
was?
upgrade.
That
Yeah,
okay.
even like full grand, quartz counters, the whole.
So we would
yeah,
have
it is a better-
had to spend more to get there anyways,
Yeah.
which we didn't have. So.
But just it's interesting to see like what a new set of eyes, right? Like a
Right.
new vision
Right.
can like do. Even
That's
if
true.
a property is
That's
doing
true.
really well, you think, oh, well,
true.
what more is there to do?
That's
right?
true. That's true.
But there can still be a lot more to do.
But what happened to the foundation? Do they have to redo the foundation, or the foundations?
Yeah, because weren't there a couple left?
They still had to do some.
Yeah, they had to finish out what we started.
Not as much as we did.
Got it.
It's like we left some meat on the bone for you.
Foundation is not.
I know, in a negative way. Yeah.
Yeah. So since we're looking back, I know you guys started this in 2018. Are there any processes that you've since implemented that maybe you wish you had in place back then?
I can start on that. So for that project, it was multiple. So we had CapEx Partners was assigned a bulk of the projects, but for the more complicated, I ended up managing all of them. But for the complicated ones, we did use a GC, foundations, and a couple others, which was necessary for the level of risk. But since then, we have like a system now where we call it a project packet. And so it's a page that we put together with the scope of work. So before we start calling contractors, we as an ownership group decide what the scope of work is, and then we send that out to the contractors. So they have to fill out our packet. They're not sending their proposal with a bunch of distractions and here's what we think. They have to fill out our packet, and immediately you have apples to apples. And it's all in one PDF, right? So as the ownership group, you get one document, go all the way down from top to bottom, and then you can make an educated decision. That would have helped out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That standardization. For me, it was more. It's about installing gates. I didn't know gates were that important. Apparently, installing gates help reduce crime, increase people's comfort, which in turn increases occupancy and reduce delinquency. And wow, we should have done the gates a lot earlier. Yeah.
And I mean, I think on the operations side, we were definitely, obviously since it was our first, real
Yeah.
large deal,
Yeah.
it was definitely more of reactive instead of
Yeah.
proactive, right? Because we didn't know what could go wrong, right? At the time. So yeah, we had our business plan, but obviously things never go, exactly to plans. I mean, and it was helpful, obviously, having an experienced person, at least sort of on a higher level, mentor.
So you can have somebody when there's a tough decision,
call and
set up a call with them.
questions. Yeah, I mean that was a big thing for sure. But yeah, I think just for that first deal, it was all just figuring it out,
Yep.
kind of as we were going along, right?
Yep,
Whereas
yep.
now, obviously, we try to be much more proactive. We have a set, our KPIs, right?
Yeah,
It's
we have
very,
KPIs now.
consistent every week. We know what we're looking at. We know what we're doing. So it's just becoming more systematized, more consistent with our operations.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of security, I think that was probably my favorite creative project because we literally took the pre-existing gates on the outside.
Oh yes.
That was doing nothing, and probably kind of an eyesore to the people driving by. Yeah, and we just moved them back in front of the leasing office, which created this arc to put a sign of the name of the property. It's pretty cool.
So smart. Yeah.
Yeah. The gate thing was a real challenging
Yeah.
project actually, just because of the way the parking lot was laid out. It was super weird and
Yeah, there's only one lane.
Yeah, I've
Like
never
in
seen
two
that.
spots.
I've never seen entry layout like that. Yeah.
We should have
Okay,
budgeted
so
for
let's
an underground
transition
fund.
away from Del Sol. Like I said before, we are at the Dealmakers Live event here 2023. So I want to know what y'all's experience has been so far. What's been your biggest takeaway? I know there's been a lot of speakers. We've heard from a lot of people.
Yeah, so the event's been great. I think the Hilton Anatole itself is amazing. It's kind of cool how like where the networking area is. It's like it's perfect for networking.
Lots of light.
Yeah, and there's always something good going on. But if you want to talk to somebody, you can come out. It's just a good it's organized well. And then I didn't realize how nice this hotel was and like how big it was either.
It's funny. I was like talking to one of the other attendees just yesterday about the hotel, and they were like, yeah, like nobody could build this hotel today because it's like too much space. So it'd be like any modern hotel would like put more rooms, right? They've just maximized the
Got
like
it.
dollar, value of like every square foot. So like you couldn't even do this like crazy massive like atrium thing probably that they do. It's kind of cool.
I can imagine.
And the just the people here, they're from all over the United States. And then I've just haven't been to an event before where they're teaching so many different things, like so many parts of the multifamily process, from underwriting, raising capital. What else have they talked about?
Building a platform, raising operations, even creating a business.
Asset management.
Yeah,
talked
trends,
about.
what markets to invest in. Yeah, I think for the price, I think even if you don't plan on joining any mentorship group, I think this is a great event to learn a lot at once. And honestly, because you know the speakers, you can actually just like look them up. Some of them actually publish books, so you can read a ton of books. I think this is actually the most cost-effective way to kind of learn about multifamily, in my opinion.
Speaking of that, there's a lot of educational multifamily programs out there in general. So how do you guys kind of navigate like what to invest in, what to spend your time on? Do you have a process for that, or?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously we,
Yep.
all three of us,
Yep.
joined the same program.
Yep.
Kind of initially, all in 2018, I think,
Yep,
right?
yep.
We joined.
Seems like there's so many out there now
There's a
or
lot,
about
yeah.
to be. Especially right now, there's not a lot of transactions going on in multifamily. So like every person I talk to has something coming out or a program or a meetup, and it's like, I don't know, it's like if I'm at this event, there's like 3 other events going on right now somewhere around the United States. We're missing something.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like I personally just don't like to travel. So like, if it comes through Dallas, I'll go to it. But
I see.
I know like Perry's the one who's like hitting up every
Yeah.
conference in the country, so
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
speak better than me to
He's
like.
got Cash Flow Portal,
Right.
and that can serve anyone in the United States.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy,
Yeah, yeah.
so I just wait till it actually comes and I can drive 3 miles to go to it.
That's why you're here. So yeah, I heard something the other day from somebody that's very successful in the multifamily space, and they were talking about this topic, and he was basically saying like a lot of people have these educational platforms, and you just got to be careful because they were successful, which was very hard to do no matter what, but the timing that they were so long ago. And just being able to take advantage of the appreciation of all these assets, especially in a market like Dallas. And now they want to educate because they've been so successful. But does that mean they were boots on the ground and like really getting into the operations? And did they really learn as much as you would if you were getting involved just now? And so he was saying it's not so much about how successful they are, but more about their experiences. Obviously, success is important, but yeah. So you just got to do your research, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. It's a great point about recession. People couldn't buy deals, so they turn into the easiest thing possible, which is create a product that has no downside. You can lose money, right? Like the only thing you lose is your time and energy. And I think there's also something to be said about once you close a deal or you close a couple deals. Closing each deal is like crossing the Mecca. Like it is a lot of work. So a lot of people do feel like, man, I accomplished something I've never accomplished before, and that they want to share more of that feeling with others. Nothing wrong with that, but just know that, just because you cross one Mecca doesn't mean that like you are now a always successful syndicator. Yeah. But I in general, I love mentorship programs. I'm in 6 of them, and I think each one brings a ton of value. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the reason that it was good that we talked about Del Sol today is because a lot of the people I've met today, they're especially the deals they pitch, they're super heavy lifts, and they were talking about very interesting in the capital raise seminar. They were talking about if it's going to be that much risk, right? Like the foundation situation they were in. What was the occupancy when we took over? Do you remember?
80s.
In the 80s, okay.
No, actually, I think the occupancy was super high, but the caveat was they had all those
not good tenants.
down units that were
That's
the
right.
foundation damaged units,
Yeah.
and they were literally just putting like homeless people.
That's right,
Basically.
that's right.
Oh yeah, so we had no idea what we're getting into.
So when we did our
True
inspection, we were
occupancy
like,
is
oh, it's
80s.
98%.
Yeah,
Like,
true
the
occupancy is
real-
80s.
So it was
That's right.
kind of sketchy.
Gotcha. So he was saying that the more risk, the more the passive investor should expect a return for that, a compensation for that. And so the guy was pitching and he was like, well, you're taking over a property that's 43% occupied and you're offering 8% cash on cash. He's like, I can go find that 8% anywhere or a lot of places. What am I getting out of taking on this bigger risk? And so the reason I bring that up is because when I think the biggest deal or the highest risk deal that y'all have done so far, that we've done so far, was Del Sol. And if you can get that under your belt and know how to be successful through it, it makes everything else a lot easier. But just having that track record of being able to do a deal like that, it makes you feel a lot more confident about when you run into a B-class deal down the road, right? So, yeah.
Cool. Well, what all do you guys have going on individually right now? What's kind of your focus for the next 3 to 6 months, I'll say? Brandon, let's start with you.
Right. Oh, yeah. So a lot going on. So I have a course coming out on CapEx management any week now. Just a lot more to the final details than I thought. And it's funny because every time I go to an event, I'm like, maybe I should put that in the course as well. So at some point, there has to be a stopping point. I got to send it out. But I think it's solid, but I'll always be adding to it. There'll be multiple versions. But we just got an LOI accepted on a new deal here in the DFW. And what's exciting about that is that it's the ideal situation, kind of like at North Haven with you guys. It's an all bills paid property. So we're going to be able to implement the utility savings projects that seems like nobody's doing. Of course, toilets and aerators and stuff. So, but these are just more specialized utility savings. Solar is one of them. And as much as we can try to do that on North Haven, the key is to get the budget ahead of time. Do it in your underwriting. Have the budget when you close instead of trying to figure it out after you close on the property already. What about you, Perry?
Yeah, for me, we have a business called Cashflow Portal, and that's used by 700 general partners across the country that help them capital raise and investors and tens of thousands of investors on there. And so we decided that, well, we have all these like general partners that are trying to raise money. Why don't we help them raise more money? So we created a different business, a separate business called Palace. P-A-L-L-S-A-S, and people joke that Palace is like Perry in Dallas. It's like Dallas with a P, but it actually stands for Pallas Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom, strength, and independent thinking. And so we really like this almost like marketplace where the investors can go on there and check out operators. Brandon is on there and Ed is on there. And so we also created a YouTube channel called Palace HQ. So go to Palace HQ. So my goal before end of the year is to really create a world where anyone can just go on there and then like connect with people and then see their 506B deals. That's the most important part, is that in order for you to invest in 506B deals, you have to know the operator. But there's no website right now that allows you to know the operator unless you join a mentorship group. So instead of paying, for a mentorship group to invest passively, you can just go check out the website. Now, it's a different website because we want to make sure the general partners investors are absolutely protected and they're isolated, and so their investors belong to them. Palace investors, we go to, YouTube channel, we go to podcasts and evangelize this crowdfunding platform.
That's exciting.
Awesome. Ed, what's going on with you?
Obviously it's been like a slow time in the market, kind of on the buying side. So I've mostly been, focusing a lot on just the asset management of our current deals, making sure we kind of get through this like turbulent period we're in. And I am still looking. I do a lot of underwriting and talk to brokers all the time and just kind of try and keep my sort of finger on the market. But just being patient, I think, is like really important right now. A lot of people are like shouting that it's the bottom of the market and now's the time to get in, and you're gonna regret if you don't start buying everything. But I mean, I'm more on the cautious side, I guess, and so I'm not sitting on my hands, but I'm not just grabbing at every opportunity. So I think there will be a lot of good opportunities like later this year, next year. So looking forward to those.
Cool. Thank you.
So now that Perry went to that long explanation, let me add a little bit more detail to the course thing.
Sure.
So the course is for the boots on the ground partners on the team. So you have a team of either one or multiple GPs, maybe there's an asset manager, or maybe you're relying on your property management company, your regional manager. But the course is for the person that's in charge of being the boots on the ground, going to the property, making sure every dollar is managed, and some ideal people that are just getting into multifamily that are looking for a way to join a team, and maybe they can't raise capital just yet, or they're starting to, maybe they don't have that much capital themselves. This is kind of the route that I took, is to learn the asset management side and be the boots on the ground. And so people with backgrounds in single family is really perfect for this role, or construction is great for this role, and then military is also really good for the role as well. So just a thought.
Great stuff, guys. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And to everybody watching, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to follow or subscribe. And last question for each of you, how can investors connect with each of you?
Yes, so on Instagram, I'm at The Apartment Operator. Facebook, just my name, Brandon Martinez. It's two easiest ways to get in touch with me.
Yeah, the best way is just email me at perry@cashflowportal.com, or you can check out our chart record on palacehq.com.
Yeah, I'm not big on the socials, as Brandon and Felicia know. Probably just email. You can email me at sittlerc, that's SITTLERC @gmail, and that I actually will check that.
Great, thank you. And with that, we're out. Tune in for our next podcast with CapEx Partners.